All right, what's up, y'all? It's your boy Prize from the Strickland. Much has been made of the videos of RJ training with Drew Hanlon and then training with the FIBA Canada team. Are his seemingly new shot mechanics going to translate into better shooting? What even are his new shooting mechanics? Let's jump straight into it. I'm going to start out by looking at some free throws and threes from the playoffs, just so we know what we're looking at with RJ. This video is also going to look at his form in past years. So, here we go. Slow motion. You see his elbow above his shoulder. That's going to be a common theme. He sets his elbow above his shoulder and his set point way above his head or not way above his head, but enough above his head. You see where his hand is when the ball is set. It's basically right above his hair. Remember that. Where the elbow is and where his hand is. Here's a three. RJ still has a pretty narrow base. He still brings the ball up pretty far in front of his body. And then you see here, you can't really see his elbow, his left elbow, but you see the ball is set clearly above his head. His hand is above his head. It was a good shot. It went in. Putting the ball above your head is not a bad thing. Lots of good shooters do that, especially from the mid-range, but also from three. It's all about consistency. Here's another one, a little catch and step. See if I can run that back a little bit. Way above his head. Elbow above his shoulder. Now, this is from rookie year. I meant to take the sound off, but I didn't, so bear with me. But you'll see. Remember his rookie year, he struggled coming out of Duke shooting in the... Look at that. Look how much higher his left elbow is compared to his shoulder. And look at where his hand is. It clears his head completely. Set above his head, elbow way above his shoulder. His arm looks like a greater than symbol out here, like a sideways V. Again, some shooters can make that work. Did not work for us. You see also his hand was pretty far in front of his face, and you'll recall that as a rookie, it came out later during his better shooting sophomore year that mechanical changes that him and Drew Hanlon wanted to make were allegedly overturned by David Fizdale and the Knicks shooting coach at the time. I forget his name. Thank God he's gone. And one of the big changes they wanted to make was to get his elbow not quite as tucked, because that can be uncomfortable unless you have a certain physiology, like say Jason Tatum. All right, this is from I want to say the sophomore year where he shot 41% from three. Slow motion, great phantom cam video from NBA. Didn't have any phantom cam videos of RJ shooting from the last year, probably because he didn't shoot that well. Now watch where his elbow is. Under his shoulder. His shoulder is actually higher than his elbow. And look at that. Even as he jumps, it stays level with or under his elbow until the latest possible moment right there where he begins to actually shoot it. And the reason that's important for RJ is you can bring the ball back above your head and your elbow above your shoulder, but it creates a longer lever. And think of that as, to use a baseball analogy, a taller pitcher trying to have more consistent mechanics because they have long arms. They have this long lever that they're trying to get the same, and it's just a lot more moving body to get consistent. So it can get a little bit tougher sometimes. Here's the same here. Watch that left elbow below his left shoulder, and look at where his left hand is, right at his eyebrow. Drew Hanlon teaches pretty much all his guys that. That's something a little different from other coaches, other trainers. He pretty much consistently tries to get them to shoot this way, and RJ has struggled with that. He ain't struggled this year though. Good rotation. Elbow in, but not too tucked in. Here's the other side. You see his base is still pretty narrow. His knees come in, not great. His feet are still kind of narrow. He pretty much lands a little bit in front of where he shoots. But look at his hand. Right at his eyebrow. Elbow right below his shoulder. Until the very last moment, then he begins pushing the ball forward. A lot different than his rookie year and a lot different than this most recent year, 2022-23. Now here's a grainy video, sorry for the quality, of him in FIBA that came out this week. There's two things I want to point out, or three really. You can see the ball is, his hand is pretty close to his forehead, so definitely a lot lower than this most recent year, and his elbow is in line with his shoulder, actually a little below it, kind of like in his sophomore year, till the very end, till he releases it. And the other thing I want you to see is his base. He actually, I'll run that back for you. He actually, it's a little hard to see, but he lands a little wider than he takes off. And you might be like, Prez, that's weird. Why are you changing your feet that much when you land? But when you're trying to become a good shooter and a pull-up shooter, you know, you can't always land the same way unless you take easy spot ups and not that many of them. And I think if you watch someone, for example, like Emmanuel Quickly, you'll see his feet sometimes differ slightly in terms of how wide or narrow or forward they go because he's adjusting to different scenarios. And if your upper body is clean, your lower body can sort of act as a little bit of a rudder to incorporate and account for different kinds of momentum that you might have, which is why good pull-up shooters often, they won't be stiff with their landing. They'll be able to land a little forward, land left foot a little back, right foot a little back, left foot a little forward, etc., etc. Now SGA goes, but we don't care about SGA. Wah, wah. So here's RJ again. A little dribble pull-up. Pretty wide, which is better for a pull-up. Comes up. Ball, pretty much, his hand is pretty much where his hair begins. And his elbow is a little bit below his shoulder until he starts pushing forward. At no point does the ball really cross over the top of his head. And he lands wide again. Again, this isn't inherently, a lot of these things aren't inherently better or worse, shooting quite above your head or lower or higher or at your eye versus your eyebrow versus your head versus a little on top. But it's, if you can get comfortable and get consistent with the form, then it's better. He lands a little wide again here. And personally, looking at him shooting these, it looks a little easier and he looks a little less strained. This is the first video I saw where I got clued in. This is him training with Drew Hanlon at some point this summer. Let me run this back for you real quick. Eyebrow. Elbow below the shoulder. It allows you to get into your shot faster. Even lower. Look at that. You might be asking, why is he practicing pull-ups? We just need him to hit spot-up shots. But if you're breaking in new mechanics, you do want to try to practice it in a variety of scenarios just to get your body used to it, because you're not going to be in an open gym when you're playing, right? You're going to be in different scenarios. So if you can shoot harder shots in practice than you shoot in the games, and you can do that successfully in practice, guess what? You'll be successful on easier shots in the games. Now here's the other video we saw, just regular speed. Now that you've heard all of my spiel, you can just kind of enjoy this and see, for yourself, if you think Prez knows what he's talking about, or maybe he's speculating too much and it's a reach. Maybe you need to see him prove it over a large sample. I do too. And hopefully he does, starting with games this month for Team Canada and then following into the season for the Knicks, year 5 for RJ. Hopefully he can find some consistency from 3 again. This has been Prez for the Strickland. You can find me at _Presidente on Twitter and on the strict.land writing about draft stuff. On that note, I'm out. Thanks for rocking with us.